Sensodyne, powered by Srinidhi University, kindle the light within. Special partner, HP Lubricants, power to perform. Radico, spirit of excellence. प्रभु जी मिठाई हो या नमकीन, बस मौका चाहिए जी. टाटा इंट्रा गोल्ड पिकअप सक्सेस का मंत्र. सर्वोकॉन ट्रांसफॉर्मर एंड स्टेबलाइजर रखे सब कंट्रोल में. सर्वोकॉन गोल्ड पार्टनर भीमा मार्वेलस मार्च ऑफर्स फ्रॉम 1st to 31st March. स्टेट पार्टनर उत्तराखंड गवर्नमेंट. विकसित अरुणाचल प्रदेश, मध्य प्रदेश शासन.
Light, camera, and action. Kick back, relax, grab your favorite snack because News9 is here with your weekend dose of entertainment. It's time to take a deeper dive into the buzzworthy happenings of the entertainment world. From celebrity gossips to exclusive conversations, from nostalgic moments to News9's pick of the week, don't worry, we've got you covered here. And I hope you've grabbed your popcorn by now because News9's page 3 is here to serve you everything that we call entertainment. So do stay tuned every Saturday and Sunday, 2:30 p.m.
Well, cutting across to Bharat Mandapam, where Union Minister Piyush Goyal is in conversation with my colleague.
Sensationalism and headline grabbing will then take over the actual negotiations. Then the negotiations will not be in our room for the best interests of everybody, but negotiations will be driven by like you have the media trial, we'll have media negotiations going on.
So we'll not push you on the negotiation, sir, but the first tranche, fall of 2025, is what we know. Are we on track, sir, after Mr. Lynch has concluded the first round of talks here in India? Does it seem to be that India and US are on track to at least conclude the first tranche of an agreement by fall of 2025?
We are always on track. And our effort is that the train should never get derailed. Just like in a aircraft, there may be occasional turbulence when the pilot tells you to strap your seatbelt. And then after a few moments it goes away and you're back to normal and you can even use the restroom.
Yes, sir. I know you're talking about the commander and the pilot. We know the commander is completely in control and so is the pilot in this case.
If I may complete, and ultimately, the commander takes you down to a safe landing, and then you have many more safe and successful travels to do, as we all do.
Well, let's hear it for the commander and the pilot. Well, of course, the pilot is here with us. The commander was here with us yesterday. But, so we'll be happy to...
I can assure you the commander is completely in command. He knows what is best for India. And you have seen the astute leadership he has demonstrated over the last many years, over a decade now, more particularly in the current discussions. So you can rest assured that the country is in very safe hands.
No, we have no doubt in that, sir, and we are absolutely sure that we are in very safe hands. What Prime Minister Modi also said yesterday, sir, was that India has actually grown from being a global market to a global manufacturing hub, and that is pretty much something that is being driven by you, by your ministry. Give us your vision, your views on how the manufacturing sector is poised to grow from here, sir.
I think with the advantages that India offers, the fact that we are a democracy where the rule of law prevails, the fact that we are a young nation, aspirational young nation, our average age is only 28.4 years, expected to continue to be young for the next 30 years. The fact that today we produce the highest number of STEM graduates anywhere in the world, and 43% of them are women, providing diversity to our development agenda. So democracy, providing the rule of law, demographic dividend, with an aspirational young population bringing talent and skills, our diversity, the demand that 140 crore Indians bring to the table, domestic demand, which helps us make manufacturing at scale a success story, and that scale makes us competitive in the world market. So it's, as I said in an earlier program today, that these are like beads in a necklace. What we have in India is a story which has several dimensions. The fact that we are looked upon as a dependable nation, a trusted partner who delivers. A number of D's that are making India a compulsive destination for manufacturing. Our democracy, our demographic dividend, our demand, our dependability, our diversity makes us the right destination.
Absolutely, sir. I would like to open the floor open for questions, but until that, sir, we also have a session. You are talking about India's young population. During the day, we also have a session on skilling, reskilling, education, and I think GCC has become a very important factor in employment generations. Just tell us, sir, what is India's roadmap for GCC? What is India's roadmap for really going ahead and creating jobs? Because at one level, there are fears that AI is losing is going to take away, eat away jobs. At another level, there's a debate that AI is going to create jobs. And here we are talking about GCCs, which will be using AI to perhaps create jobs. So tell us about the GCC vision for the government, sir.
One thing I can very categorically state, AI will change the nature of job. And therefore, reskilling becomes very important. Remaining abreast with technology is the order of the day. And young India has the advantage that we have a fertile ecosystem, a very, very new ecosystem where we can leapfrog to adopt the most modern technologies. I don't think AI will cost us jobs. It's like that old debate when computers came in. It will only change the nature of job. End of the day, the human mind will always prevail. The best of technologies are made by a human being. And ultimately, the human mind will always be a step ahead of any technology that the world or anybody may produce. As regards the GCC, I think this is one of the learnings from COVID that has helped the GCC ecosystem prosper in India. Take, for example, what happened in COVID, where we all moved into working from home, in large measure. A lot of the work that our talented young boys and girls do moved to homes. Of course, the government created the ecosystem, so I remember overnight we moved broadband into people's homes. Overnight we gave permissions even from special economic zones or export-oriented units for allowing all the flexibilities that COVID desired or needed. Factories were given flexibility, particularly export-oriented units. We handled them. We had 24-hour helplines so that every commitment our factories had made to anybody in the world, we would meet. Why do you think we are called a trusted partner of the world today? In the most trying time when the most developed economies failed, India met every international commitment, whether on supply of goods or services. Every international commitment we met on time, without any disruption in service. That dependability tag that we have got today is the reason we have now 1,700 plus GCCs in India, providing employment to millions of young men and women. I mean, the other day a company came, they said they have close to 300,000 boots on the ground. They have 300,000 employees in India. So, and with COVID, the world recognized now we don't need to fight over H-1B visas anymore. Because rather than moving so many people all over the world, that same job can be done sitting in India. And friends, look at the economically beneficial position India is in now. Our talent doesn't go out of the country. The brain drain stops. We retain our talent in India. It's helped our startup ecosystem come up with huge new ideas, big ideas, innovative ideas. The money that we earned through our GCCs helps us earn precious foreign exchange in India. Now suppose these 300,000 working for this international MNC would have worked in different parts of the world. That much talent would have gone out and they would have earned in their local place. Only 300,000 families would have benefited. Now all those 300,000 working in India pay their taxes in India, consume goods and services for their daily needs, housing, food, clothing, everything in India. They save in India, they invest in India. The company pays its taxes in India. We earn foreign exchange, that the services these 300,000 people provide to the world, we earn foreign exchange. Our services exports are growing at almost double digit. Another couple of years, our services export will be equal to, if not more than, our merchandise export. And as Michael Porter had said, every country has its own competitive and comparative advantages. Our advantage would be in a different area where we will benefit. Our advantage in manufacturing will be in certain areas where we will benefit. As we engage with AI and modern technologies, we will benefit. So I think we are in a sweet spot. I hope all of you will benefit from that.
Yes, sir.
So, to your point, Mr. Goyal, we actually have a gentleman from Germany who's setting up a GCC in India. This is a Porsche company called MHP Consulting. I just give it to Mr. Bernd Horman to talk a little bit about what they plan to do in India.
Warm welcome to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Dear Honorable Minister, dear Barun, thank you very much for the possibility to be here today. Thank you very much for your supportive words, and exactly what you say is what we are going to do. We will open, or we just to open in Bengaluru, an IT company as a subsidiary of MHP, which is a 100% company of the Porsche car manufacturer. My name is Bernd Hermann. I did the same last 15 years in Romania. We opened up a company there, and the next logical step was to go where the right place is, and this is India. So we are starting in India our activities now this year, and this was always my journey of global delivery. And what I really see now in the last years, it's not anymore nearshore, offshore. IT happens in India, and this is the idea we have at the moment. So we found very good conditions in Bengaluru. My question is towards you. What can we expect in future as support from your side? Not particularly for the particular companies, but in general for the industry and for the infrastructure.
Our effort is to focus on ease of doing business. Our effort is to be more welcoming to investors, both domestic and international. Our effort is to make sure that we can improve the infrastructure, which includes our digital infrastructure. So we are already, probably the world's fastest rollout of 5G is happening in India. And we already started work on a 6G bed, so that we remain most contemporary and help companies like yours which need that high-speed connectivity to get at affordable prices. In fact, the price of broadband in India would probably be 1/10 of what it would be in Germany or anywhere in Europe, if not even less than that. So I think our effort and our support would be in the form of being more welcoming, with an open door policy, hand-holding you through Invest India. If you have any issues where you need help with the government or with any other body in the country, our effort will be to ensure that the rule of law prevails, which our democracy proudly flaunts. Another D, by the way, the rule of law that democracy provides, where there will be non-discrimination with domestic or international investors or between businesses. You always have the confidence that justice would be at your doorstep, justice would be available to you. And that's a big comforting factor, that you cannot be discriminated against, you cannot be wronged, and justice will always be available. You have a vibrant media, very ferociously independent judiciary, a responsible bureaucracy, which has to work within the ambit of the law of the land and the constitution. And what Prime Minister Modi is bringing to the table is another D, and that's decisive leadership. Willing to take strong decisions to transform the nation, reform our processes, and help you perform. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So from somebody who's building a GCC in India to perhaps somebody who may end up constructing one, sir, I'd like to introduce to your left is Mr. Abhishek Kapoor. He's the MD of Puravankara Group, based out of Bangalore. I think he has a question for you.
Sir, given what's happening globally and our strength now with Prime Minister Modi positioning us where we are today, do we think that in this current environment and with the big T playing the whole world the way it is, the new variable in the global equation, do you think that we will gain more traction in Make in India and in not just from the US but from other parts of the world?
Well, I think every country always has to protect its own interests, just like we, India first. I think every country has the right to protect its national interest. We see nothing wrong in America first. We will take care of India first. And as the Honorable Prime Minister said, together we are a force multiplier. Two democracies, large democracies, one very large, the world's largest economy, one aspiring to become the third largest in the next 2.5 years. Fastest growing large economy with a big talent and skill pool, which complements the American growth story, which is not confrontational, which is not in competition, because what the US with an $82,000 per capita economy can produce is very vastly different from what India with a $3,000 per capita income can offer. So we are actually two economies that together can do wonderful things, big things, and that is the effort and the direction in which President Trump and Prime Minister Modi, when they met in February, decided to work going forward, and that is what I can see before my eyes unfolding in the coming months and years.
So talk to us about the synergies or the disparities that you feel right now in the auto sector globally. At one level, the entire world seemed to be converging towards moving to electric mobility. And now there seems to be some divergence because US is back to drill baby drill and India still goes on the mission of 30 at 30. So do you think there is perhaps scope for understanding where the world is headed when it comes to mobility?
While of course we have a serious challenge before us in terms of climate change, and India is at the forefront of the global effort to address this serious challenge, and we shall continue to be so. India does not want to be a problem, we want to be a part of the solution. And way back in 2015 at COP21, we found that the whole world had different priorities and different concerns, and countries which were not the cause of the problem in the first place were the ones being penalized. It was Prime Minister Modi who took the leadership role to bring the global south together, the less developed and developing countries, to come to terms with the reality of climate change, to work with the developed world in a spirit of cooperation and collaboration, got the developed countries to recognize that there will have to be common but differentiated responsibilities towards addressing this challenge, that the developed world will have to contribute through low-cost, long-tenor funds, mostly grant funds, to help the less developed countries or emerging economies in their mitigation efforts or in their effort to grow their economies, yet in a sustainable manner. They will provide the necessary technologies for the same. We came to a very good agreement in 2015. And India has steadfastly continued to pursue that path. We are amongst the best performing countries, even amongst the G20 nations. Our ranking is right at the top in meeting our nationally determined contributions. Sadly, we never got the promised funding or the promised technology. Despite the fact that our contribution to the problem up there is barely 3.5% odd, supporting a 17% global population. So we have been truly responsible towards nature, towards climate, and that's natural for an Indian. It's in our DNA to be responsible towards nature, to respect nature. Many of us here, we even pray to the mountains, to the sun god. I pray to the sun god every morning, to the moon at night, to the rivers, to the mountains, to the trees. Tulsi ka jhaad hum sabke ghar mein hoga shayad. So we are a very responsible nation and we will continue to be so. Of course, we also have an economic imperative in promoting electric mobility. America has a large pool of oil and gas available. India is a large importer of these energy sources. So I think for us, electric mobility, given that electricity is still largely driven by our own domestic fuel, is actually not only a global good, not only our own contribution to system, but also an economically prudent decision which will save huge foreign exchange, bring down our dependence on other nations, helping us becoming Atmanirbhar, and help the Indian economy grow even faster and better.
Karthik, I have a quick question. Minister Goyal, going back to your ministry, and you said that India is very competitive when it comes to services exports, growing double digit. But I think one of the problem areas is when it comes to goods. The challenge, of course, is to make goods more competitive when it comes to exports. How are you dealing with these two priorities? On one hand, you have a strength and you're working towards that, but at the same time, India wants to make its exports more competitive, goods exports more competitive, at a time when we talk about tariffs, retaliatory tariffs, and there is also a need to bring down import duties on some of these imports into India. How are you balancing your priorities?
Well, I think I've myself been in the manufacturing business for nearly 2 decades. From a very young age, I started when I was only 17. And I tell you, I've gone through all of the problems that the 80s and 90s manufacturers in India had to go through. And our own effort, and particularly from our own learnings and memories of the old days, is to make sure that manufacturing in India truly benefits from our ease of doing business effort, our effort to be more trusting of business persons, more respectful towards honest businesses, our effort to attract manufacturing at scale, that speed, skill and scale, which Prime Minister Modi had introduced when he was the Chief Minister of Gujarat. We have tried to bring it to Delhi. So we are creating champions in different sectors who can work at scale, because economies of scale help in our global competitiveness. We also believe that the mindset of Indian manufacturing is undergoing a metamorphosis. For example, quality. Never before has India been as conscious that and respectful of good quality manufacturing as it is today. Some of it spurred through government efforts. We have now compulsory quality control orders ensuring that Indian manufacturing moves towards quality, which are nearly 6 times more than they were in 2014. We had about 106 QCOs. Today probably 650 or 700 QCOs in the country, and rapidly growing. The idea is not to create roadblocks, but to create the culture of quality amongst Indian manufacturers and consumers. What some countries did is dump goods in India, substandard products, at predatory prices, literally killing the Indian manufacturing. Because ultimately, how long will somebody be able to survive through honest business when somebody is subsidizing their exports to India massively and the consumer is getting often substandard goods at such prices at never before prices. And this kind of work by some of our neighbors and some countries in the world has really hurt Indian manufacturing. We are trying to make sure we can put an end to that. We are hand-holding and supporting Indian manufacturing through these turbulent times. And what I have always looked at, this kind of predatory pricing and this kind of dumping of goods, is that this is like an opium. And I've said it on many public forums before. We have to wean away the Indian consumer from this opium also. Because this then becomes ingrained in the Indian consumer's mind. He doesn't recognize that the Hawaii chappal that he buys or a footwear that he buys may look seemingly cheap, but is only going to last him a few months. But if he buys a good quality product, and quality is never expensive. Quality is not difficult to maintain. In fact, maintaining quality, you reduce waste, you can get better scale, you can capture bigger markets, and ultimately a quality product will always be cheaper than a low quality product. But it's that education and that understanding that sometimes is difficult, which we are trying to take and get the whole Indian ecosystem to absorb. And
before I let you go, sir, can I just ask you one final question about good quality manufacturing? Just one sec, sir. Good quality manufacturing of Tesla cars or BYD cars happening in India anytime soon, sir?
everything that we will do will be in national interest. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for Minister Piyush Goyal. Aditya, I'll request you to continue from where you picked up and conclude. We will be moving to the next session from here.
My apologies to the panelists to cut short because of the Union Cabinet Minister's entry to this hall. But yes, we were talking about tariffs and he is the man in action. Or do you see that this is perhaps the beginning of a larger rebellion or confrontation that the Pakistani deep state will face at a time when they are seeing an economic collapse, a political turmoil, and the security situation, particularly in Balochistan and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, worsening?
I think what is happening in Balochistan and in fact more broadly on Pakistan's western border is a manifestation of the dysfunction of the Pakistani state. Its writ does not extend deeply in a lot of the periphery. It's also a mindset issue. The Punjabi center views the rest of the provinces as periphery, and events there have to be handled with a sledgehammer rather than with careful negotiation. And to some extent, it's also the failure of the Pakistani state to negotiate with, dissenters in a democratic way. It is always seen as a law and order problem, and typically the insurgencies have a civil unrest element which is organic and real people protesting real issues, and also has a militant element. But painting the whole dissent as a militant challenge to the army is part of the problem. And, you know, since it's the army that is really governing the state and making these decisions, when you have a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. And what it is taking Pakistan towards is deepening the poly crisis. You mentioned it has multiple elements: an economic crisis, a political crisis, a civil military problem, and a problem of decreasing faith in the military as an institution which continues to govern Pakistan. So I think while we are seeing the security, it's in the news cycle, the security attacks, because they're so brazen, hijacking an entire train with 500 people is something really, really brazen, even by Pakistan standards. But what it really shows is a deterioration, but it is not yet a collapse, because the Pakistani state and particularly the military has the ability to control much of these problems. And unfortunately, for its people, it does so in a very, very hard power using sort of way, rather than democratically negotiate the dissension.
Let's not, of course, forget that two of the most leading Baloch voices, peaceful protesters, Mahrang Baloch and Samidin Baloch, have been arrested, and there's been a move to crush democratic, peaceful protests in Balochistan. But for
get you the latest from News9 Global Summit, as well as what India thinks today. Moving on now, Thai authorities have declared a state of emergency in Bangkok after a strong earthquake of 7.7 magnitude struck Myanmar on Friday.